Morning everyone, welcome today to our divine service. I trust as we study God's word together today that each one will receive the blessing we've come here for. It says in John 3:16, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." I use that text a lot of times. Very important text in the scripture. I'd like you to turn with me this morning to Acts 4:13 to 18. Acts chapter 4, verses 13 to 18. Now when they saw the boldness of Peter and John, and perceived that they were unlearned and ignorant men, they marvelled, and they took knowledge of them that they had been with Jesus. And beholding the man which was healed standing with them, they could say nothing against it. But when they had commanded them to go aside out of the council, they conferred among themselves, saying, "What shall we do to these men? For that indeed a notable miracle hath been done by them is manifest to all them that dwell in Jerusalem, and we cannot deny it. But that is spread no further among the people. Let us straightly threaten them, that they speak henceforth to no man in this name." And they called them and commanded them not to speak of all nor teach in the name of Jesus. It's strange, isn't it? Here was the gospel. Here was the result of what the Holy Spirit had done to fix the man up, and the leaders of the organisation, because it was going against them, they wanted to get rid of the disciples. You know, years ago, in Bowen, 60 years ago, there was a murder took place. A man died at the hand of his wife, and when the court case was held, it was a strange thing. After the lady had been convicted of the murder, the judge asked her if she had anything to say. And this is what she said. She said, "I didn't mean him any harm. I only wanted to threaten him." You know, friends, sometimes if we have that idea in our mind of threatening, it can lead to bad things, can't it? You know, Martin Luther said, "When I look in the mirror, I think, how can I be saved? But when I look at the great mirror, Jesus, I think, how can I not be saved?" And you know, friends, as we get older, we probably look less in the mirror. But let's look at the great mirror, Jesus Christ, and see the reflection from him. I want you to turn me to Psalms 115, 1 to 9. Psalms 115 and 1 to 9. "Not unto us, O Lord, not unto us, but unto thy name give glory for thy mercy and for thy truth's sake. Wherefore should the heathen say, Where is now their God? But our God is in heaven. He hath done whatsoever he hath pleased. Their idols are silver and gold, the work of man's hands. They have mouths, but they speak not. Eyes have they, but they see not. They have ears, but they hear not. Noses have they, but they smell not. They have hands, but they handle not. Feet have they, but they walk not. Neither speak they through their throat. They that make them are like unto them, so is every one that trusteth in them." It's so easy to read that text there where people love to worship idols. They will go and mine in the dirt and they will find a stone. Then they will shape the stone and they will kneel down and worship it. They will cut down a tree and they will form an idol out of wood, nailed on the wall, and there they will worship it. And I've been playing a little bit of tennis the last week, and just watching the players, and this end of the court there's a great player, and he serves the ball and he misses. Immediately out comes the chain. St. Christopher's on the end of them. I think it's St. Christopher. Anyway, he gives it a fumble, puts it back in his shirt. Down the other end, the other player, he misses a shot, drags the chain out and he fumbles with the chain. You know, this is what happens when we follow idols. And not only wood and stone and silver and gold, anything that separates us from God is an idol. And many of us have those idols. An old farmer was walking beside his pond, and there was a little frog. And he said, I'll pick this frog. I went to pick the frog up, and this frog, this is only a fable by the way, this frog said, if you kiss me, I'll become a beautiful farmer's wife. And the farmer took no notice. He continued to bundle the frog into his pocket. And then the frog said, didn't you hear what I said? If you kiss me, I'll become a beautiful farmer's wife. And the old farmer said, at my age and at this inconvenience of time, I'd rather have a talking frog than a beautiful wife. And you know, we can laugh at that, and it's true. But sometimes it's more convenient for us to do this than to do that. It's more easy to do the wrong than to do the right. I want you to turn with me to Daniel 2 and verse 28. Daniel 2 and verse 28. But there is a God in heaven that reveals secrets and makes known to King Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter day. Thy dream and thy vision on thy bed, upon thy head upon thy bed are these. And we know the story as it unfolded that Daniel was the only one who could interpret. But Daniel didn't say, I'm smarter than the other people in the kingdom. My God. And he kept saying, my God. And this morning the sermon's about, do you know Jesus or do you just know about him? And here Daniel was saying, my God. Daniel knew Jesus. And it wasn't long before this heathen king, Nebuchadnezzar, he came to know Daniel's God as well. And he told the king what the dream was, and we know that Nebuchadnezzar was a head of gold, and as the image goes. And then over a bit further, when Darius, we find that the king made a decree that he built this great image. Everyone who had to kneel down and worship the image. And the three worthies, Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego, they wouldn't bow down and worship it. And when they cast them into the fire, and you know the story, then Nebuchadnezzar looked and he said, I see, did we not throw 3 men in the fire? And they were bound, they weren't able to walk. He said, I see 4 men walking in the furnace, and the 4th is like unto the Son of God. So how did Nebuchadnezzar know that? Because of what his experience with Daniel, he knew. And then over in Daniel 6, there was a change of kings, and Darius became the king, and he liked Daniel. And then the other leaders in the kingdom, they became jealous of Daniel. And Daniel 3 times a day swung his windows open and he worshipped towards Jerusalem. And then they tricked the king into signing a decree to end Daniel's life. And you know, the king was so upset, he realised what had happened. And in Daniel 6 and verse 14, then the king, when he heard these words, was sore displeased with himself, and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him. And he laboured till the going down of the sun to deliver him. And we know because of the law of the Medes and the Persians, the king was not able to change his mind. And then the king made this statement. Daniel was put in the lion's den, and he said, your king, whom you serve, is able to deliver you from the lion's den. Now wasn't it great from this king? He knew the life that Daniel had lived. He knew Daniel had been with Jesus. And as a result, it shone forth. And that king could not sleep that night. He didn't have any musicians play any music. He didn't sleep at all. Early in the morning, he went down to the den and he said, Daniel, is your God, whom you serve, able to deliver you from the lion's mouth. And we know the rest of the story, what happened. So it's these different worthies of old proved that they'd been with Jesus. Daniel told the king that Jesus was able to solve all his problems. Even the heathen king knew God because of Daniel. You know, as I look out upon the faces this morning, I just liken our church to a room full of light bulbs. You know, and what's more useless than a room full of light bulbs? There's big fat light bulbs like me, and there's long, tall, skinny ones, there's little ones, there's square ones. You can get light bulbs in all shapes and sizes. But when you get those light bulbs, what use are they? Can you do anything with them? Not until you put the power into them. And when you hook those light bulbs to the power, some will shine bright, like those two lights up there. Others will be a bit not so bright, some dull, and down it goes until some, it doesn't matter how much power you inject into them, they're not going to glow. And some won't even come on. And then there's others, as soon as the power hits them, they blow a fuse. So I just wonder, are we hooked to the right power source? Are we hooked to Jesus to have the power that he gives us, each one? You know, like Peter, when he saw Jesus on the lake, and Peter knew Jesus, you know, and he said, Lord, I'll come to you on the water. And he started to walk, and then he started to sink. Just for a fleeting moment, he looked away or he did something. He lost that connection with Jesus. And you know, friends, was Peter lost as a result? No, he had made a mistake. And Peter, the Lord, he said, Lord, save me. And when we're in trouble, in distress, just put our hand out and say, Lord, save me. It's as simple as that. We don't have to worry about the devil because Jesus on Calvary has paid the price for our sins. Just turn me to Matthew 8, 28 and 29. And when he was come to the other side, into the country of the Gergeses, there met him two possessed with devils, coming out of the tombs, exceeding fierce, so that no man might pass by that way. These men were so fierce that no one was game to go near them. And behold, they cried out, saying, What have we to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God? Art thou come hither to torment us before the time? So even these men, even these demoniac men knew of Jesus. You know, there's a story in Luke 10. You can turn if you want to, but I'm just going to talk to you about it. There was a man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and on the road he fell among thieves, and he was badly beaten and in a sorry state. And the Bible tells me that he was half dead. So the man was only half alive. He was half dead. And so along comes the priest. Now you might think that priest is someone else, but that priest is in here this morning. The priest went through on the other side. Didn't have time for that. Then came the Levite. Oh well, he gave him a second limit, hadn't had a look, and he probably thought to himself, well, this fella's all right. He'll make it. He's half alive, so he should be all right. And I'll leave it someone else to help him, so away he went. Then came the Good Samaritan on his ass, and he came along. He jumped off the donkey and knelt down, and he dressed the man's wounds, and he helped him. And he took him to a hotel. And when he took him to this hotel, he said to the innkeeper, this man, look after him. I'm paying you some money. Fix him up, make him well. And if it costs any more than what I've given you, when I come again, I will repay you. And you know, we can say, well, that's for someone else, not for us as Christians. In 1964, we went to a youth congress in Nunawading, Melbourne, Victoria, and we happily drove from Bowen in North Queensland down. It was a long way. I could just about entertain you for half the day on what went on and what didn't go on. Anyway, we travelled down, And when we got to Nunawading, we registered there at the camp, and we were only newly married, so we had a beautiful penthouse, an old tent, a couple of iron stretcher beds, and a bale of hay that came with the deal. You put on the metal, then you put your sheet over that. There was no mattress or anything. So we had a penthouse suite at the Nunawading Youth Congress in 1964. And we were there for a while, and then on the Friday night, they had the Vespers and the opening thing. And probably the biggest church represented was Greater Sydney. And when they called Greater Sydney, well, it was a big yahoo, and, you know, people waving and shouting. Then I think South New South Wales was the next biggest. And down they went through all the different areas, Pacific Islands, all over Australia and the islands. And then they came to North Queensland. Well, we stood up nice and proud. We're from North Queensland, 13 or 17 of us, wasn't very many. Anyway, and when we stood up, they said, North Queensland. Did you hear all the people saying, hey, hey? No. Boo, 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 all around the room. And I thought at that time, here in this room is the future leaders of our church, our conferences, our hospitals, the whole lot. And this is the attitude. And when they knew we come from North Queensland, not only were the comments derogatory, they were racist as well. Anyway, Olive had cause to go down to the bathroom, and there was a big line of bathrooms. And there was some Samoan girls, young girls, and this one young Samoan girl tended to have fits, and she had fitted on the ground. And all the priests and the Levites all stepped over and around the girl on the floor. So friends, this story is closer to home than we think. It's here amongst us. It's not only out there, it's here. And Olive knelt down to help the young lady, and she asked if she could help or get someone to help, and one of the other girls said, oh, this is just normal for her, that she does that and she'll be all right. Then not long after, one of the chaperones turned up and all was well. But I'm just trying to give you an illustration of just how we can think that everything that goes wrong, everything that's done wrong is out there. Friends, it's here. Unless we have Christ in our life, unless we make Jesus number one, we will be the same as that. You know, also in Luke 23, it talks about Jesus on the cross. And when Jesus was on the cross, there was a thief each side hanging on the cross. And one thief said, you're the King of the Jews. Come down at the cross and save yourself and save us as well. But then the other thief said, this man's done nothing wrong. You and I, we're thieves. But this man has done nothing. He's been crucified for something he did not do. And so, friends, let us be like the thief that took the part of Jesus. And Jesus said to that man, I say unto you today, you will be with me in paradise. Out where I live, there's the Dawson River is not very far away, a few kilometres. And when the floods come and the rains come, that river, that little stream becomes a mighty river. And some places it goes to 10, 20, 30 kilometres wide. It just backs up. We're about 5 kilometres on one boundary from the river. And it just backs all up through our property, over the fences, big high fences. And it gives lifeblood and the water that supplies our country. And all along that river there's towns depending upon the water that they receive. There's agriculture, there's stockmen with their flocks and herds, mines, all these things depend upon this river. And you know, that river travels for 600 kilometres down before it joins the Fitzroy, just down below Jeringa. And if you were to go out to the Lonesome National Park in the Carnarvon Ranges, there's a little bit of an indentation in the road that you'll drive over, and that is the beginning of the Dawson River. And then as it goes and flows and other tributaries come in, it becomes the mighty river that it is. And you know, our lives can be like that. If we take Jesus as our partner, we too can do a great work, because our lives will spread out to reach others. You know, there's an old Cherokee Indian was sitting down with his grandson, and he was teaching the boy, and he said, I have two wolves in my chest. He said, fighting for supremacy. He said, one is a bad wolf. He has hate and all the things that are terrible. And on the other side I have a good wolf, and this wolf, he likes love, peace, goodness, mercy, and it goes on. And so then after a while, the little Cherokee was sort of listening to Grandfather, and he said, Grandfather, which wolf wins the battle? The old man said, the one I feed the most, friends. So if we feed the satanic wolf, that's the path we'll take. If we feed the Jesus wolf, that's the path we will take. I'd like you to turn with me to Matthew 7, verses 1 to 7. Matthew 7, 1 to 7. Judge not that ye be not judged, for with what judgment you judge, you shall be judged, and with what measure you mete, it shall be measured to you again. And why behold the mote that is in thy brother's eye, but consider not the beam that is in thine own eye? Or how wilt thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote out of your eye, and behold the beam is in my eye? You hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of your own eye, and then shall you see clearly to cast out the mote out of your brother's eye. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearl before swine, lest they trample them under their feet, and turn again and rend you. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. It's a wonderful story, isn't it? So often, and even as church members, as Seventh-day Adventists, we're so often so keen to get our brother on the right track that we fall off the path ourselves. Brother needs a hand, so if he needs a hand, give him a hand. Don't tell him what he should be doing, give him a hand. You know, if someone's out there in the ocean and they're sinking, you fly past in your speedboat, oh, you need a life raft. Be a lot of use, wouldn't it? You know, pull up and give him the life raft, help him out. So often we just want to fix everyone's problems, but that's not our job. It's our job to show them Jesus and what he's done for us. You know, there's two men that stand out in the Bible, David and Moses. If you want to look at it in 1 Samuel 16, you can. But David, when Samuel went to the house or home of Jesse to anoint one of the sons of Jesse to be the next king, the boys come out and Jesse brought out the good-looking boy, and no, Samuel said, that's not him. And another one, and he cast them all off. And then in the finish he said to Jesse, haven't you got any other boys? Oh yeah, he said, the one out there looks after the sheep. He's just an old shepherd sort of thing, just out there looking after. Well, call him in, Samuel said. So they called David in, and we know the result. The greatest king that ever lived was chosen by Samuel and was anointed right there and then. And David waited his time till Saul was no more before. He would not touch the Lord's anointed. He waited until it was his time to do it. And we know about Moses. You know, Moses spent 40 years in the courts of Pharaoh, 40 years learning the ways to be a Pharaoh. And then one day he made a mistake. He saw the Egyptians treating his kinfolk in a bad way, so he, in an act of bad temper, he killed the man, buried him in the sand. And the next day when he went back there again, oh, you're going to do the same to us as what you did to the Egyptian yesterday. So Moses fled to the wilderness. 40 years in Pharaoh's court. 40 years in the wilderness looking after sheep and cows and whatever. And then he came back, and we know the great work that Moses did as he came back to Pharaoh, and he got the people, the Israelites, delivered from Pharaoh. And we know the story in the Red Sea, how Pharaoh came in, the pillar of fire from God stood between the Israelites and the Egyptians. And when they were all across, then God shifted the pillar of fire, and we know the result. All the chariots and the soldiers of Pharaoh were all annihilated. You know, as I started the sermon, it says in John 3:16, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life." The story is told of an old man who had a great art collection. He had Rembrandt and he had Picasso, Raphael, all those different ones. And this man's son went off to the Vietnam War, and there he gave his life saving a fellow soldier. And when the war was over, that young soldier came and knocked on the old man's door, and he said, "I have a present here for you." And he had this large parcel, and he said, "I think you should have it." And he unfolded, "I'm not an artist," he said, "but I think you should have it." He unfolded the picture, and there was a picture of the old man's son. And the young artist had just gathered all the things that the old man knew about his son. And he was so glad to receive the painting, he hung it on his wall. A few months later, the old man died, several months later, and all the art collectors from far and near had gathered to the auction of the old man's art gallery. And when they started off, the auctioneer said, "The first picture we sell has to be the picture of the son." And all the people who wanted the good paintings weren't very impressed. They started to murmur and mumble, but the auctioneer picked up his baton and he said, "How much am I offered for the picture of the son?" And there was no one here. All of a sudden, from down the back of the hall, the old gardener, he knew the son, he said, "I will give you $10. That's all I have, just $10. And the auctioneer went on, $10, $10. Any advance on $10? Can we make it more? $10. Give it to him, sell it," they all said. And so the auctioneer said, "Sold for $10 to the old gardener." Then he stood up and said, "The auction is over. All is done." It stipulates in the old man's will that whoever gets the son inherits the whole estate. Friends, it's the same today. Do we know Jesus, or do we only know about him? 2,000 years ago, he died on the cross, and it's the same. If we have the Son, we have life. Let's further praise God with the use of hymn number 183. I will sing of Jesus' love. Hymn number 183.